Imagine leaving everything behind, your family, your culture, your comforts, to journey into the unknown. That's exactly what Hudson Taylor did. Not for fame, not for wealth, but for faith. His story is one of unwavering trust in God, even in the face of insurmountable challenges. Today, his life and legacy continue to inspire millions to ask the same question he answered with his whole heart. Here am I. Send me. Before we begin, take a moment to reflect. What does living by faith mean to you? Hudson Taylor's life was a testament to faith in action, a faith that left an eternal legacy. As you watch this story, consider how God is calling you to step out in faith today. Could it be prayer? Missions? Supporting others in their callings? Let this story inspire you to trust Him with everything. James Hudson Taylor was born on May 21, 1832, in Barnsley, England, into a family of prayer and purpose. Even before he was born, his parents prayed that he would one day serve God as a missionary to China. But like many of us, Hudson's journey didn't start with strong faith. As a teenager, he strayed from his Christian upbringing, living a life indifferent to God. That changed at age 17, when he picked up a simple gospel tract. Moved by God's grace, Hudson surrendered his life to Christ. From that moment, he felt an unshakable call to take the gospel to the millions in China who had never heard the name of Jesus. Determined to fulfill this calling, Hudson began to prepare. He studied Mandarin Chinese, trained in medicine, and lived with radical dependence on God. Hudson believed that God's work must be done in God's way. "Depend on it," he often said. "God's work done in God's way will never lack God's supply." In 1853, at just 21 years old, Hudson set sail for China. After a perilous 5-month journey, he arrived in Shanghai. But the challenges were just beginning. The country was in the midst of civil war, and Hudson struggled with cultural barriers, isolation, and financial difficulties. Despite these hardships, Hudson's faith remained steadfast. He began distributing Christian tracts, preaching the gospel, and offering medical care to those in need. To connect more deeply with the people, Hudson made a radical decision. He adopted Chinese dress, customs, and even hairstyle, shaving his head and leaving a queue, the traditional braid worn by men. This choice drew criticism from fellow Europeans. Hudson believed it was essential for breaking down barriers and sharing the gospel effectively. Dressed as a local, Hudson found that women and children approached him more readily for medical treatment. Inland cities became more accessible, and he encountered fewer troublemakers. Hudson's commitment to respecting Chinese culture showed that the gospel was for everyone, not just foreigners. He often said, "Let us in everything not sinful become like the Chinese, that by all means we may save some." In 1865, Hudson founded the China Inland Mission with a bold vision: to bring the gospel to the unreached provinces of China. His missionaries lived by faith, relying entirely on God's provision and adapting to Chinese culture. Over the next decades, the mission expanded across China, bringing hundreds of missionaries, establishing schools, and spreading the good news to countless souls. Hardships were a constant part of Hudson's journey. During the Boxer Rebellion, missionaries were targeted, and 79 CIM workers lost their lives. But Hudson's faith never wavered. He believed in God's sovereignty, often saying, "I have found that there are 3 stages in every great work of God. First, it is impossible, then it is difficult, then it is done." Even after his death in 1905, the seeds Hudson planted continued to grow. Today, the underground church in China is one of the fastest-growing Christian movements in the world, a testament to his faith and obedience. Hudson Taylor's life was a reminder that faith is not just belief, it's action. He once said, "The Great Commission is not an option to be considered. It is a command to be obeyed." So, what step of faith will you take today? Will you trust God to do the impossible in your life?
In a quiet town, a child was born, a prayer of faith, a life to transform. Through grace he rose, God's voice was clear. Take my love to lands far and near. Leaving comfort, walking by his side. Through storms and struggles, faith was his guide. Faith in action, a heart so true. Here am I, send me, the call he knew. God's great mission, his life's refrain. Through trial and triumph, his glory remains. A stranger's land, a foreign shore, he bore the cross, through love he swore. Dressed as one, with their lives he aligned, breaking barriers, one soul at a time. Depend on God in his ways alone. Seeds of faith in China were sown. Faith in action, a heart so true. Here am I, send me, the call he knew. God's great mission, his life's refrain. Through trial and triumph, his glory remains. The Great Commission is a call to obey, not an option to choose or delay. Though it's impossible and difficult, it's done by his power, his